Hey there guys, it's been a couple weeks since I put a video out. I'm sorry about that, but today we had a nice break in the heat. It's been in the 105, 110 degree range for, oh good grief, the last couple of weeks it seems like. Today, like 85 degrees. It is beautiful out here. It almost felt a little bit like fall going into this morning. It was just great. So it's a good time for me to go ahead and get these grow outs here processed. There's 4 of them, 4 males. I was able to sell several to help pay for the rabbit feed, but these are the ones that are left over, and I've been putting it off because it's just been so freaking hot outside. I just didn't want to deal with it, and I've been a little bit lazy. But today is a good day to go ahead and get that done because it's nice and cool out today. So I got QuailCon coming up at the end of at the end of this week, basically. So I need to get these guys processed so they're not just hanging around. Just get it, you know, lower my stock, I guess, if that makes sense. And it's time anyway. So all the things aligned, it's a good time to get them processed. I've shown processing rabbits on video before, but I figured why not go ahead and film this for you guys, let you see. I managed to get the yard mowed yesterday and several of my other chores done yesterday, so that's what we're doing today. Not the fun part of raising animals for your own consumption, but a necessary part. So, now I can't show the actual dispatching of the rabbit on video. YouTube frowns on that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to be using a pellet gun today. Try that out and see how that works. Basically just make a crisscross between their ears and the tip of their nose, and where that intersects, like from one ear to this side, from one ear to that side, if that makes sense, where that intersects, an imaginary line of course, that's where you would basically, like a bolt gun, you'd put the pellet right through there. We're going to see how that works. I've got a 22 caliber pellet rifle I'm going to be using for that. I typically have used the broomstick method, where you set the rabbit down on the ground, you put a stick, a broomstick, a PVC pipe, whatever, across the back of their neck, step on each side, grab their legs and pull. Dislocates, it's cervical dislocation, and it's pretty quick, pretty humane, but it does bruise up the meat around the neck pretty bad. So we're going to try pellet gun today, see how that works. I just want to be as humane as possible, put them down as quickly as possible. I don't want to have the, you know, I don't want to have them suffering, if that makes sense. Let me go show you what I've got set up over here, how I'm going to be processing them, and then we'll get to it. Okay, this is my setup here. I've got a piece of paracord over here with 2 slip knots in it. I'll be putting their feet through there, hanging them here over this feed bag, and all the waste goes into the feed bag. There's only 4 rabbits, so it's a pretty simple setup. It's right next to my chicken tractor. You can probably see it just right off camera right here. So that's kind of my table. I've got a big bowl to put all the rabbit meat in. I got my knife, a pair of pruners that's going to help me snip through bone and remove the bone, or cut through the bone on the ankles and the neck and that kind of stuff, so I don't have to dull my knife up doing that. And a pair of gloves, just kind of helps keep my hands a little bit clean. I like using the gloves. And then of course my pellet rifle over here, that's what we're going to be using to dispatch. So again, I can't show that process on film. What I'm going to have to do is dispatch the rabbit, and then I'll get him hung up here. You guys will be able to see me do the rest of this process. It should go pretty quick. There's only 4 rabbits to take care of. It doesn't take long to process a rabbit. So now I say that, and of course I'll probably run into all kinds of problems just because I said it. But we'll be back with you in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and grab one of those rabbits, dispatch him, get him hung up here, and we'll pick the video up from that point on. Alright, I think that's in film, or in camera, and the camera's actually going. I actually processed 1 rabbit, didn't even have the camera going. I didn't even notice it. So I've just dispatched this guy. I've just put a pellet through, like I told you. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the throat open. He's passed on. He's not feeling any of this. But I'm going to cut the throat and let that bleed out. There shouldn't be a whole lot of blood coming out now because I used a pellet and a lot of the blood already came out. So while that's draining, we're going to start up here at the leg. Now here's what I will tell you guys. These guys are a lot harder to process than most young rabbits. I let them grow out a little bit longer than I should have, and it makes it tougher to get everything going. But basically, you're going to see some nerves kicking. He's moving around, but he's not alive. He's dispatched. It's just nerves, if that makes sense. If you're not used to that, that can be a little bit freaky. But basically, I'm going to cut through the skin up here by the leg. And I needed to sharpen my knife, I guess, because it's not wanting to cut very well. But we're going to cut through the skin up by the leg. Now, most of the time, you can just get it started like that, grab it and pull it. But these guys are a little bit older. Their skin's a little bit tougher. It's a little bit harder. You may have to do some cutting. If you do have to do some cutting to get the skin to release from the meat, it's kind of hard to show on camera, but right here where the skin attaches, there's the white part that holds it on there. If it won't pull loose, cut it, but cut it towards the skin, not towards the meat. You don't want to cut the meat, you just want to cut the skin. And if you cut it a little bit, it'll release, it'll start pulling down. Let me see if I can get my hands on this and just pull. Once you get it started, it's usually, there we go. I say it's usually pretty easy to go. It's a whole lot easier on younger rabbits than it is on older ones. So same thing on this one. I'm just gonna cut, get the skin to release all the way around. Try to get that started and get it going. I think that's probably enough. There we go. So pull both those legs down. Then I'm going to work right here close to the belly. I don't know if you can see this on film or not, but I want to punch my fingers through that where the skin connects to the belly itself. I don't know how well that's showing. But basically just work until you get your fingers pulled through, and then you can just kind of pull that skin loose all the way up towards the rear end of the rabbit. You know, it's the top right now because he's hanging upside down. But just work it up there. Take my knife, cut it off to open that up. And then I'll turn him around here. And I want to pull all that way back. Grab the tail, pull on it a little bit, and then cut the tail off right there. And then that should release all the skin. And then it's just a matter of pulling it all the way down. I don't know, he's probably off camera now. Let me back the camera up just a tad bit so you can see what's going on. All right, hopefully that shows. He's actually mostly down inside the bag, but you just pull the skin down, and then when I get down to this point right here, I'm gonna let pull the legs, the front legs through. Again, just kind of work at the elbow there till I get my fingers through. Pull them down to the ankles. Same thing with this one. Pull it down to the ankles. I know I'm probably off film right now, but you get the idea. And then this is where the pruners come in. What did I do with my, oh, they're right there. These make it a lot easier to cut through bone than to try to do it with your knife. So I just take the pruners, snip the bone, and it's not going to come completely off just yet. But that's where my knife will come in. I don't have to cut through the bone, I can just cut through the flesh, if that makes sense. And then we're going to cut all the way around the head, all the way around the back and the front. Kind of release that down to the bone, but don't try to cut through the bone with your knife. You'll dull it up. And then again, the pruners to cut through, dang it, to cut through the neck. And that should release everything. And there's nothing but the carcass left. Now this, I'm dropping everything. It's not too dirty. All right, let me bring you in just a little bit closer for this part. It's not hard, it's pretty easy, but it'd be easier to show you up close. All right, now that we've got this rabbit skinned, this is pretty quick and simple. I start up here, get my knife tip in there, and pull it out away from the rabbit so you don't do what I just did right there and burst the bladder. That's kind of you shouldn't be doing that. That always happens when it's on film. But it's not that big a deal, just wash it off, it's gonna be okay. But try to avoid cutting through those things. The bladder, the guts, all that kind of stuff. And then for the most part, just work your way from the top down, pulling everything out. It should all, for the most part, pull out in pretty much one piece. The kidneys along with it. There's the diaphragm right there. Pull that loose, and that gives you access to pull the lungs and heart out. And just grab and pull everything out. And then we're gonna go back up here to the top and work on this section right here. What I like to do is take the legs, break them apart like that, you'll break open that pelvis, and then you can cut right down through where that bone is broken. Cut all the way up, and again on the other side to release all that stuff, and then just grab it and pull it out. Sometimes it may take you, I don't know if that's on film what I'm doing, I'm just cutting where it's still caught. It's pretty obvious when you're doing it yourself. And I like to take off this piece right here. And it does not need to be on there for sure. It's part of the genitalia, don't want it. And just cut it loose. And that's pretty much it, other than just going and washing this thing up. It is processed. So I will, oh, I gotta take off the back legs too. Again, darn it. Again with the pruners, right there at the ankles. And then come back with the knife and cut through. All right, let me go stick them in my bowl. And pull these ankles through and open my loops back up. And then I got 2 more to do. That's pretty much it. Process is pretty simple and straightforward. All right, well that's that. I got all 4 of them processed. The next step is just I'm going to be putting them in the refrigerator, dry age them. You could put them in ice water if you want to. You could put them in an ice chest full of ice. Either way, keep them cold. However you want to do it, keep them cold. And you know, wait about 3-4 days probably until rigor mortis leaves the meat, because what's going to happen is they're going to stiffen up pretty good. And I'm going to give them probably about 4 days actually until rigor mortis leaves the meat, and then I'm just going to package them up and freeze them or cook them, or you know, whatever I want to do with them at that point. But you don't want to put them right in the freezer right away, because they will stiffen up, and if you try to cook the meat when rigor mortis is in it, it's going to be real tough and real hard to chew, and it's not going to be pleasant. It's going to be you're going to be unhappy with the results. So you do need to let that meat age a little bit, let the rigor mortis leave the meat, and just keep it cold. So I put them in the refrigerator in a bowl, just dry with a paper towel over the top, and that's how I do it. But if you don't have room in your refrigerator, you could definitely put them in an ice chest full of ice. You know, you can put them in, some people say salt water. You don't need to do salt water on them, honestly. You can if you want to, I guess, but you don't need to. I don't like I just like to dry age mine. That's how I do it. But again, you can do it however you want to. The key is you got to keep them cold. You know, you don't want the meat to rot. You want to keep it cold. All right, that's pretty much it for processing these rabbits. Hopefully that video showed up okay. I haven't got a chance to look at it yet, but if I'm posting it, I guess it did show up okay. And you got an idea of how to do it. That was a quick processing video. I've done other processing videos. You may have seen them already. But I got these 4 guys gone. There's nothing in these cages now. They are empty. Now, as far as these PVC cages, if you saw me build these grow out pins, they work great for grow out pins. They would not be really good for a permanent pin for your rabbits. They're a little bit wobbly. When the rabbits run around, they kind of wobble around a lot. They're not super sturdy, but they work great for just a temporary enclosure to grow out some rabbits. They're fine for that, and I just strung a tarp over the top to give them some protection from rain and stuff like that, and it worked out just fine. But I think I will probably eventually build a sturdier, more permanent structure that I can use for my grow out cages. These were just a cheap, easy way to get something up in a hurry. It's almost time to start breeding rabbits again. I'll probably be doing that in, I don't know, October-ish, going into fall. I don't like to breed in the heat of summer because it's just too hot. The rabbits really kind of struggle when it gets hot out. And I just don't like to put that extra stress on them. So, and as far as scars go, I only got a couple of new scars today. I don't know if you can see that. One of them kicked me really good right there and right there. Broke me open. I had to put band-aids on it to keep from bleeding because I'm on blood thinners and every little scratch bleeds like crazy. But I'm all good. It's okay. If you can make it through a processing without getting scratches on you, you're probably doing pretty good. Honestly, it makes it a little bit easier to go ahead and dispatch them when they kick you and scratch you open and it hurts and you get a little angry at them. It makes it a little bit easier to go ahead and do the dispatching, because that's not the fun part of raising your animals. If you're new to dispatching animals, you've never done it before, it's Emotionally, it's a little bit tricky to get over. My advice is just don't overthink it, just do it. Just try to disconnect from the process and just be precise and do it. As far as how the pellet gun worked compared to my broomstick method that I usually use, worked pretty well. I do feel like it takes a little bit longer for them to expire, to put it nicely, than it does when I use a broomstick method. It seems to be a little bit quicker, but honestly, I don't know. I don't know that they suffered anymore. I think it was pretty humane. I used a 22 caliber pellet rifle. It seems like a pretty good process to me. It does avoid the bruising on the neck. I don't have any of those problems with these rabbits. I've tried a pellet gun in the past, but it was a .177 caliber, and I did not like the results from that. It took a while for those guys to expire. I just kind of felt like there may be a little bit more suffering involved in that, and my goal is to let them, to have them suffer as little as possible, just to be done with it as quick as I can. And the 22 calibers seem to do a little bit better job. So I'm pretty happy with that. I may go ahead and continue to use that. So anyway, I guess that's it. I'm about ready to head off to QuailCon later this week, at the end of the week. I'll be heading up there. So I wanted to get these guys processed, first of all, because we had some cooler weather to do it in, and second of all, I wanted to get them taken care of before I headed out. I've got somebody coming over to take care of the animals for me while I'm gone, my son, and it's just one less thing for me to worry about, a little bit less food to go through, and it's meat in the freezer. So it was a win-win-win all the way around. So that's why I went ahead and just got it done this weekend. I guess that's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something if you've never processed rabbits before. And I will tell you, these were way harder to process than younger rabbits. I let these guys grow out a little bit longer than I normally do. And when you're processing younger rabbits, 8 to 12 weeks, somewhere right around in there, they're a lot easier to skin. These guys were pretty tough. They were pretty hard to skin compared to younger rabbits, but not impossible. Got it done. So anyway, again, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next video. As always, God bless.